From the moment we are old enough to understand the world, we are fed a story, a carefully constructed myth, that our lives are a series of sacrifices patiently endured until the final prize, retirement. Work hard, obey the rules, pay your dues, and one day you will be free. You will retire, finally liberated from responsibility, free to do as you please, free to enjoy life. But here's the cruel irony. This story is a lie. It is a psychological trap, a cultural illusion, and one of the most insidious forms of control ever sold to the human mind. Alan Watts, the philosopher who spoke of the illusion of linear time and the folly of postponing life, would call this the ultimate deception, convincing people that life is something to survive rather than something to experience. Look closely at what retirement really promises. Society tells you that one day, decades from now, you will finally be free. But in reality, the majority of your life has already been spent waiting for that moment. The years of schooling, the years of climbing the corporate ladder, the endless hours of monotony, all designed to condition your mind to see life as a series of steps to endure. You become a practitioner of delayed existence, a participant in a slow-motion trap. Your youth, your curiosity, your vitality, all traded for the promise of a future that may never satisfy. And when retirement finally arrives, you are not liberated. You are worn down, habituated, and often ill-prepared to even recognize freedom when it comes. Watts would argue that this is the core of the illusion, treating life as a means to an end, rather than an experience to be lived. Freedom is portrayed as something external, a destination at the end of decades of labor. Yet freedom is not found in calendars or bank accounts. It is a state of mind. The trap is that most people spend their entire lives chasing a horizon that moves further away the moment you approach it. You save for the future while ignoring the present. You postpone joy while obeying rules you didn't question. You exchange experience for security, time for perceived safety, only to discover too late that the rules were never designed to liberate you. They were designed to occupy, distract, and control you. The cultural machinery around work and retirement reinforces this deception relentlessly. From childhood, we are taught to value achievement, accumulation, and delayed gratification. Schools reward obedience, corporations reward productivity, and society rewards compliance. Every institution whispers the same message: endure now, enjoy later. It's a subtle form of indoctrination, one that convinces people that time is an adversary and that life itself is something to ration. Yet Watts insisted that this very mentality is madness. To live as if the present moment is unimportant is to misunderstand the essence of existence. Life is not a future event. It is happening now. Every delayed joy is a denied life. Consider the paradox of retirement. Even when you finally reach it, freedom is often incomplete. Many retirees are burdened with health issues, financial stress, or mental habits shaped by decades of deferred living. Their capacity for spontaneous action, joy, and creativity may be diminished. The irony is brutal. The very system that promised liberation has prepared them to experience it in a diminished form, if at all. Freedom is treated as a delayed reward, yet delayed rewards are never fully satisfying because human consciousness cannot grasp postponed happiness the way it grasps immediate experience. You cannot bank years of delight in the future without losing the essence of living in the present. Watts emphasized that our obsession with planning, saving, and strategizing for the future self is fundamentally misguided. We are trained to imagine ourselves as separate from the moments we inhabit, as if we are passengers waiting for a destination rather than participants in the journey. The pursuit of retirement as a goal conditions the mind to ignore the richness of daily life, the beauty in work, the depth of learning, the joy in ordinary experiences. By postponing freedom, we become trapped in a perpetual cycle of anticipation, blind to the fact that the present moment, fleeting, imperfect, and alive, is where true freedom resides. The psychological implications of this lie are profound. People measure their worth by productivity, their success by accumulation, their lives by schedules. They sacrifice relationships, health, and creativity to chase a dream that is perpetually deferred. The more they obey the script, the more entrenched the trap becomes. Happiness is always after retirement. Fulfillment is always later. Peace is always postponed. And yet, as Watts repeatedly reminded, life is a process, not a problem to solve. Freedom is not a destination at the end of labor. It is the very act of living fully and consciously in each moment, even within the routines, responsibilities, and constraints of everyday existence. This lie about retirement also disguises a deeper societal purpose. By convincing people to defer life, society maintains control. Work becomes the dominant identity. Obedience becomes natural, and curiosity and rebellion are minimized. The promise of freedom in the distant future pacifies, justifies, and disciplines behavior in the present. People comply not because they are coerced. They comply because they have been convinced that their compliance is a pathway to eventual liberation. In truth, liberation was never in the plan. It was always in the present, waiting for those who dared to recognize it. Understanding this deception requires courage. It requires examining every aspect of your life, your work, your habits, your assumptions about the future. Are you living to experience, or are you living to endure? Are you postponing joy in exchange for security? Are you deferring freedom in the hope that it will come decades from now? Recognizing these patterns is uncomfortable because they reveal that much of what we have believed about life is a construct designed to control, distract, and sedate. The lie about retirement is not merely financial, it is existential. It is a conditioning of perception, a reshaping of desire, and a subtle erasure of presence. The liberation Alan Watts advocates is radical, yet simple in principle. Treat life as something to be experienced, not survived. Freedom is not delayed, it is immediate. Work is not merely a task to endure. It can be an arena for creativity, curiosity, and engagement. Time is not a commodity to save for later. It is the very fabric of existence, unfolding moment by moment. By reorienting your consciousness toward the present, questioning the assumptions you have been sold, and embracing the richness of now, you reclaim what was always yours. The lie about retirement disappears, not because the world changes, but because your perception changes. Freedom, contrary to the myths of deferred living, is not a reward, it is a realization. If the lie of retirement is that freedom comes at the end of decades of obedience, then escaping it requires a radical shift in perception, discipline, and action. Alan Watts constantly emphasized that life is happening now, and the notion of later is an illusion that pacifies the mind. To reclaim your freedom, you must first recognize that time is not a resource to be hoarded, but a reality to be lived. Every moment spent postponing joy is a moment surrendered to the system that seeks to condition and control you. The world has perfected the art of convincing you to trade the richness of the present for the promise of a future reward that may never satisfy. To resist is to awaken, to act consciously, and to disrupt the narrative you have been told since childhood. The first step in breaking free is restructuring your relationship with work. Most people define themselves entirely through their jobs, as if their worth, identity, and purpose are inseparable from compliance and productivity. But work is not inherently a prison. It is the arena in which you can practice presence, mastery, and intentionality. By consciously choosing how to engage with your tasks, by injecting creativity, curiosity, and agency into even the most mundane responsibilities, you transform work from a chain into a playground for freedom. Watts warned that when people treat work as a means to an end, they defer life itself. The act of engagement, the moment-by-moment awareness in work, is where freedom begins. Second, cultivate financial independence with strategic awareness rather than blind accumulation. The retirement myth convinces people that wealth is the key to liberation, but wealth without consciousness is another form of enslavement. True financial freedom is not simply the ability to retire. It is the ability to make choices without coercion from necessity or societal expectation. This requires deliberate planning, disciplined saving, and intelligent risk-taking. But most importantly, it requires understanding that money is a tool, not a destination. Many chase wealth as if it were freedom, only to discover they have merely traded one master for another. Awareness, not accumulation, is the ultimate liberation. Third, embrace autonomy in time and lifestyle. The herd has been conditioned to live on someone else's schedule, 9 to 5, deadlines, obligations, and rituals dictated by external authority. To reclaim freedom, you must deliberately structure your life around autonomy. This might mean redefining work hours, pursuing projects that align with your curiosity and passion, or simplifying life to reduce obligations that steal attention from experience. Watts's philosophy reminds us that freedom is inseparable from the conscious use of time. Time is the currency of life, and surrendering it to others' schedules is surrendering life itself. The true rebel does not wait for retirement to live. They live in every moment, deliberately, with agency. Another critical element is retraining your mind to resist societal conditioning. Decades of programming, from school, media, and corporate culture, have taught you that life is a series of sacrifices, that pleasure is to be postponed, and that obedience ensures safety. This conditioning manifests as guilt, fear, and self-imposed limitations. To escape, you must actively challenge these beliefs. Question every rule, habit, and assumption. Ask yourself, am I living to experience, or am I living to comply? Are my decisions driven by curiosity or fear of judgment? Are my sacrifices authentic, or are they a reenactment of the life script handed to me? Independent thought is not merely philosophical. It is the foundation of freedom. Emotional mastery is also essential. Collective conditioning relies on fear, guilt, and the approval of others to maintain control. To live freely, you must learn to observe these impulses without succumbing to them. Emotions should inform, not dictate. Do not defer happiness to avoid judgment, to please others, or to satisfy societal expectation. The moment you recognize that fear of disapproval is a tool of mental slavery, you gain leverage over it. Freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It is the ability to choose which responsibilities serve your life rather than control it. The final and perhaps most radical step is embracing the present moment as the ultimate arena of freedom. Watts repeatedly emphasized that life is not a problem to solve, a puzzle to complete, or a race to retire. Freedom does not come at the end of decades. It is lived in every conscious breath, every deliberate action, and every moment of presence. By fully inhabiting your life now, engaging with the world intentionally, and valuing experience over accumulation, you dissolve the lie of deferred freedom. The irony is clear. Society sells life as a waiting game, and the truly liberated are those who realize that life is never later. It is always now. Those who internalize this approach do not merely survive the system, they operate above it. They retain agency in a world designed to produce compliance. They experience joy, creativity, and connection while others postpone their lives, waiting for a retirement that may never bring satisfaction. They understand that freedom is not something granted. It is seized through conscious perception, deliberate action, and relentless self-awareness. They navigate life strategically, mastering the intersection of time, attention, and agency, while the majority remains trapped in the illusions of delayed gratification. To reject the retirement lie is to reclaim life itself. It requires courage to defy conditioning, discipline to act consciously, and wisdom to understand that freedom is inseparable from experience. It is not about wealth, status, or schedules. It is about presence, autonomy, and mastery of the self. Alan Watts's teachings remind us that life is not a future event to wait for, but a continuous unfolding that demands awareness, curiosity, and intentionality. The lie of retirement is seductive precisely because it postpones realization, but the truth is simple and radical. Liberation is not at the end of life. It is the way you live it moment by moment. Ultimately, the story we've been told about retirement and freedom is a story of deferral, a subtle trap that convinces us life is something to endure, not experience. For decades, society teaches us to obey, accumulate, and postpone joy, all in the name of a distant liberation that may never satisfy. Alan Watts reminds us that this is an illusion, a carefully constructed narrative that shifts our attention from the present moment, the only true reality where life exists. Freedom, happiness, and fulfillment are not waiting at the end of some decades-long path. They are here, now, in the way you choose to live today. Understanding this truth is the first step. The next step is deliberate action. Reclaim your time, question the assumptions you've inherited, and confront the conditioning that tells you to wait. Engage with your work, relationships, and passions intentionally. Redefine success on your own terms. Recognize that true freedom is not a distant reward but a daily practice, lived moment by moment. It is cultivated through presence, agency, and conscious choice, not postponed to the end of life. Remember, society will continue to sell you the lie, telling you that freedom, joy, and peace are far away, always in the future. But the awakened mind sees through the illusion. By living consciously, embracing the now, and refusing to surrender to deferred existence, you reclaim the life that was always yours. Life is not something to be survived. It is something to be lived fully, fiercely, and intentionally. The moment you realize this, the chains of postponed freedom dissolve and the true adventure of living begins.